You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Everyone, welcome back to the Completely Fucking Clueless podcast. We have a very special guest today, and also this is our first recording for Pride Month, just so you know.
Amazing. Happy Pride.
Yes, happy Pride. And if you weren't a listener with us last Pride, during Pride Month as queer women, we like to highlight LGBTQ experiences. So all of our guests are a part of the LGBTQ community, and we are so excited to be sitting down with Kiki Ball-Change today. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yeah. We actually got introduced to you at the Wallace.
Yes.
We went and saw a couple of your last hosting gigs for RuPaul's season 15.
Yes.
And so Audrey and I, when we saw you, we were like, we have to try and get Kiki on the podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy you asked.
Yeah, we're so happy you're here.
I always want an excuse to talk about myself.
Oh, don't we all?
I ask the universe. I'm like, someone please get me on the podcast. I just want to talk.
I know. I feel like that's the thing when people ask us about getting guests on the podcast. They're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I feel like most of the time people are willing to talk about themselves for an hour. Why not? You know, get a video of yourself,
of course.
All the things.
What camera am I smiling to?
This one, I believe.
Okay. Huh?
Yes. There we go. I was like 4. So let's start with your drag journey.
Sure.
You know, when and how did you become a drag queen?
So I started drag officially in 2017.
Okay.
I like to say that it was always kind of there,
Sure.
kind of also being queer. I feel like there are signs along the way that I feel, whether you believe in God or divine being or the universe or karma or whatever it is, I feel like everything has its everything comes together how it should.
Yeah.
And so, when I was younger, I have 2 brothers, an older brother and a younger brother and a younger sister. But when I would play with my brothers, whether it be role playing kind of stuff with lightsabers or video games, I'd always want to be either Princess Peach or when we would play with lightsabers, I'd be a Jedi princess.
Fab.
It was always part of the fabric of my being.
Yeah.
And then 1 year in Halloween in 2007, I don't know if you remember, there was a commercial for a cell phone that was a girl and she was IDK, my BFF Jill. Do you remember that? Maybe it's just above your. I don't know what our age difference is, but
we're 24, 25.
Okay, I'm 29.
Okay.
So it's maybe a few years past you, but it was when cell phones were a big thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Texting and pay plans per text, all that.
Yeah.
So I went 1 year in 2007. I was 13. I went as your BFF Jill. And that was my first official time in drag.
Okay.
And it was my mom's clothes, this wig she wore for Halloween years ago. But then to take it to now, I started officially as Kiki in 2017.
Yeah.
I was living with my parents in Alabama. They had moved there from Florida, where I'm from. So I didn't know anyone. I wasn't doing anything. I was just working to save money to eventually move here.
Yeah.
And I started, I was dating someone at the time who was I think you would really like Drag Race. Because I'd seen a couple episodes here and there, but never really watched a full season. So I started watching it because I was home alone bored, and I started with season 9.
Okay.
Season 9 had just finished. I started with season 8.
Okay.
And where I grew up, when I would see drag in the South, it was very pageanty and ballads with beautiful gowns and big hair, and I loved it. But I did musical theater, you know, so I'm a performer.
Yes.
We're both BFA babies.
Yes, I've heard. And, so watching that kind of drag, I was like, this is great. I love, queer people on stage doing this, but I don't think, I would never do it. And so then when I started watching Drag Race, I saw Bob the Drag Queen and Thorgy Thor on the show. And my jaw dropped. I was like, oh, that I can do that. That's drag, but it's more like me and what I bring to the table. I like to be funny and I like to be entertaining and smart and talented. Not that saying that the other people aren't smart and talented and entertaining, but in my way, in my theater way and my goofy way. And and then I was an actor, so I was bouncing around doing different shows, and I would do like a theater show, and then later that night I would get ready and go out and drag and perform at like an open stage. And then when I moved here, I started auditioning as an actor and still doing drag on the side. And one thing led to another. I won a competition that gave me like a solo show in drag. And I caught like the bug of, I was like, oh, this is actually better than doing theater. I can be my own boss, and I can do what I want, and I can be as gay as I want, which, growing up and in college as an adult in theater as a gay man, it's like I felt like I always had to try to fit myself into a certain like archetype of, I'm tall, but I have a very like high, feminine voice. And so I could never really be a leading man. I'm too tall to be a character actor, I'm not large enough. Like I went to like a book. This is one question. I'm on a roll, but
love it.
I went to a Book of Mormon like workshop thing with one of the casting directors, and my dream role for years was Elder Cunningham.
Okay,
and I did this whole workshop. I paid all this money to do it, and at the end of the workshop, I went up to the casting director and I said, "Hi, maybe this is a stupid question, but I just want to know, like, in your opinion, what are my chances of ever booking a Cunningham?" On like tour, on Broadway, anything. She said, "It's not going to happen."
Wow.
Because you're too tall. We'd have to have like a 6'7" Elder Price. And so that was like kind of toward the end of like where I kind of started separating a little bit more from theater.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, this is like my one dream role of a show that's on Broadway right now that I could really see myself doing. And the casting people don't see it for me. So like, fuck it, I'm just going to go and be my own person and do my own thing. So anyway, 5.5 years later, here I am.
That's amazing.
Doing it full time.
That's amazing. I love that. It's interesting. This podcast that I had listened to you on, you had talked about how drag has like sort of let you make your own role in this world. And I really resonate with that because I think our podcast allows us to have our own role as like performers and entertainers in this world. Because like you said, the theater world can just be so put you in a box based on like what you look like, what you sound like. And that can be really hard because I don't know about you, but as a kid, like I wasn't really thinking about that when I was like, I want to be a performer. I didn't think that I like knew technically the entertainment industry, looks mattered, but I guess something about me didn't really realize how much they were going to try and put us into a box, I
mean, you even see with like, say, the Tony Awards.
Yeah.
I think Broadway is moving in a more progressive direction with casting.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled for Bonnie Milligan. I'm a huge Bonnie Milligan stan.
Yes,
I thought she was robbed for Head Over Heels. She should have gotten the nomination then, but I'm happy she has it now.
Yes.
But, like Alex Newell is nominated as Best Supporting Actor. Yeah. And J. Harrison G is nominated for Best Leading Actor, and they don't have non-gendered categories. And so even still, we're put in a box of where the industry thinks we should be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to withdraw our nomination, like someone in what was the show?
And Juliet, I think.
Yeah, and Juliet.
Oh,
there's progress,
really?
but it's slow.
Yeah, I'm hoping next year we'll have non-gendered categories, but
we'll
I mean, who knows what's going to happen this year with the Tony Awards? So.
I know the improv, but I support the writers, so I'm fine.
much.
I'm fine with an improv Tonys. I'm fine with that.
100%. And so, when you did move to New York and you were starting your drag career here, were there times where you felt uncertain or clueless even? And how did you navigate yourself through that?
So, just with drag?
I mean, just honestly, drag or your life here in general or being like a new person in a new city,
I lived here very briefly in 2016.
Okay.
I graduated college a semester early.
Slay.
In December. And so then I took like the next 6 months to kind of save money to move here. And I moved here in the summer of 2016. I was here for 3 months. I absolutely hated it. It was my dream. And I got here and I was like, what am I going to do? I hate it.
Yeah.
I can't. This is my dream. And now I don't know what to do. so I left. I had like a nervous breakdown in the middle of the night in like August 2016, bought a plane ticket and came home. And I said the next week, I was home with my parents again in Alabama. And I was like, I miss New York. And I didn't think I would. I thought I would never want to come back.
Yeah.
When I bought my plane ticket, I was like, I'm never coming back. I don't want to live here again. And a week later, I was like hungry for it. So I've always been like very intuitive with like my gut and like knowing what I want and like doing it, even if it's impulsive or whatever. I trust myself to know what's right for me. And so I made a plan and I said, okay, well, here's what didn't work when I was here. Here's what I need to do to make it work, to make me feel comfortable. And so one of it was like getting my equity card. Another one was like living with someone I knew, because that was a huge deal when I was here before. Another thing was like having enough money and, you know, XYZ, whatever my list was. And so I moved back in 2018 in August, and it took a while for me to like get kind of comfortable with it, and especially with drag, because I was like a year into drag and I'd only really been doing it on my own. I didn't have a sisterhood, I didn't have a community, because I was moving around a lot with shows. So I got here very clueless of like, what am I doing? I thought it was the shit. I thought everyone would want to hire me. I was like emailing bars and clubs and trying to get gigs and looking like the absolute worst pile of dog shit you can ever imagine, but feeling very confident in myself and my talent. So it definitely took a while to like learn the ropes. And New York is kind of its own beast with drag, with anything, but with drag especially.
Yeah.
And, you know, it took a long time to kind of fit in, but I think like what always kind of stood out was like the talent was there. Like the what's it called?
Foundation?
Yeah, the foundation was there. I had a good foundation.
Yeah.
I just had to like polish myself.
Yeah.
And so it's been, you know, since 2018 of just really hitting the pavement and doing a bunch of saying yes to everything and doing gigs that, you know, I made no money on, that there was no audience for, but I was doing it because if one person in the audience knew who I was after that night, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because that's part of building a business and building your brand.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And like, what were some of the things, like especially in this New York scene of drag, that you were doing at the beginning to like learn the ropes and get yourself out there? Like if somebody was listening to this and was like, how do I start this career for myself in New York?
So there are a lot of really great drag like open stages or like competitions you can do. There's something called Drag Wars that pieces every Monday night with Shaquita Hall, who's been around for like 2 decades. She's incredible. There's Star Search at Barracuda with Keisha Carr, who's a really wonderful drag queen. She's my great drag grandmother, I think.
Nice.
And there are, you know, tons of other things you can do. There's like a website called Thoughtasy.com where it has like a schedule every day of like what's going on in every borough.
Wow.
There's a website called SeeTheQueens.com where you can go and see what's going on. So you can always kind of look at what's going on. And I think it's changing somewhat than when I first moved here. I think because social media has, you know, even just through the pandemic years, like the last couple of years, like has really become such a huge part of like networking and communicating with other creatives.
Right.
But I still think the most important thing for anyone to do is like to go out and meet people in public.
Okay.
And especially in drag, if that's what you're doing, is go out and drag, say hi to people. I know you're not being paid, and it's called paying your dues, and it really sucks. And I hate telling people to do unpaid work, but it's not really, I mean, it's not, it's work, but it's not, you're not working. It's, you're meeting people. And that's with any career. I think it's important that you network and you meet the people you want to work with or the people you want to hire you, and show face, because if you show up somewhere and you're in drag, but you're not performing, people are like, who's that? What is she doing here? And they want to know why you're there, and they want to get to know you. And especially drag performers, I feel like in most cases, you are, when you walk into a room, you instantly become the center of attention because you look extravagant
Yeah.
in most cases. And so, it really is like the building blocks of moving to New York is your community and meeting the people that will hire you eventually and work with you and recommend you and do that. So that's really how I started was, doing, like I said, I did a competition that was like, I don't think it really exists anymore in New York at all, but it was like an 8-week competition. I think there's maybe one place that does it now, but like it used to be a lot more common where like you would do multiple weeks at a bar in a competition setting, whereas now like the ones I said earlier are like one night only.
Okay.
Every week it changes who's in it, who the winner is. And then through that, I thought I was going to be the first eliminated, and I ended up winning.
Oh my gosh.
And I got a solo show that was supposed to be like a 4-week run, and then it was popular, so it got extended indefinitely.
Yeah.
Until COVID happened and the bar closed, but we pivot, we readjust. But that's how I got started.
Wow, that's such an amazing story, like winning the competition and like going on to doing that. And like, do you feel that drag and theater in kind of how they operate as careers are like similar or very different?
Similar.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
I took a class in college called Theater Careers.
Okay.
The best. If I paid all the money I paid for college for that one class, it would have been worth it.
Really?
I felt like most of my skills were already there, but that was the one skill that like was completely new to me that has helped me the most that I got from college. And it was all about, we talked about taxes.
Oh my God.
We talked about proper headshots and resumes. We talked about networking. We talked about websites. We talked about social media. We talked, and it's still going on. And they have like a Facebook group, LOL, that like connects the current students with the old students to be like, hey, what does the industry look like now? Can you help answer these questions that we have? Stuff like that. That is still helping students at my school. So I took a lot of that from Theater Careers and I've applied it to my drag.
Yeah.
I hate the word like my brand. I hate it. I hate when I tell people I'm like, I'm building my brand. I'm working
I say
on my
that
brand.
all the time. I'm like, we're building our brand.
Well, I mean, it's true. I don't hate it because it's true and it's very effective, but
It could be cringy.
It feels obnoxious.
it feels obnoxious as like a single person
Sure.
to be like
sure.
my brand when I'm
Sure.
not like a company, even though technically Kiki Ball-Change is an LLC. Thank you very much.
Slay.
But it was as the same thing as an actor. It's like you are billing yourself. You are the product.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's the same for drag. You are billing, it is yourself, it's a character of yourself, but you're billing you and what you offer. You are the business, you are the brand. And so Theater Careers taught me, so much about having my own website and making sure all my social media had like the same photo across all platforms, and it all had like a similar theme. And as a drag queen, right now I'm not really doing, it's kind of giving 80s, but usually like my aesthetic is more like 60s and 70s, kind of like retro,
Very
whatever.
cool.
Broadway, campy.
Yeah.
And and that is all a part of it too. It's like, who are you as a drag queen and what do you offer? What makes you stand out? What makes you different? But also, what do you have that is like a staple for drag that you need to have as well? And, so figuring out who you are as an actor or as a drag queen, and then knowing how to sell that
Right.
to make money.
Yeah. That is such a great point, because I feel like that was something that our education maybe didn't really prepare us for. Like we got like a 45-minute talk about taxes. Do you remember that Zoom?
Yes.
Not a Zoom. Oh, you're the college Zoom generation.
Yeah, 2021 grads. I think it was better. So it was our class that was similar to that was usually run by the head of the program, and we were there during the time of turnover
lot of
and
Okay.
confusion.
Okay.
So I think from what I'd heard from upperclassmen, we just got a little fucked.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Even last week, a girl who's a senior at a BFA program right now had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm doing this final project, and I'm gonna I'm going to interview an actor from New York. Like, can I interview you?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "This is such a great idea. Like, I wish I would have talked to somebody who is actually like in the industry right now. Like, what is it like? What do I need to prepare myself for when I go to New York? Like all these these things because, you don't really know until you get here unless somebody is kind of cluing you in. So I think that class sounds amazing.
Yeah. And it's definitely like something a few of like my like peers in college have out of college, we've really been trying to build like the New York network and other cities too. Like we run like an alumni like Instagram that celebrates like the accomplishments that the alumni are doing. And that was all separate from the university and, a lot of drama around that. But
when is there
exactly. I was like, we're doing musical theater.
Yeah.
Couldn't really
Always
be this
drama.
much drama. But it's very important to me to like also help future generations that are coming and as scared and nervous about living here as I was. So
sure. What would be like a networking tip you would give to somebody if you had any?
A networking tip. Use initiative.
Okay.
But also don't try too hard. Because I can sniff out desperation and sometimes it's impressive. Because I also see that I was a desperate young adult where I was just like, someone noticed me, someone liked me, someone give me a chance.
Yeah.
Where like I look back on things I said and did or messages that I sent to people I had no right messaging, like Broadway people on Facebook in like 2015, being like, hi, I'm moving to New York and I'd really love to like chat and get coffee and like, and I'm like, I've never met you in my life. I have no idea who I am. I'm coming from Florida. And, stuff like that where I'm like, okay, I wish I could go back and tell myself to just like relax a little bit and just let the world work how it works. And you're doing your best, you're trying hard, you're making all the right moves, but don't be as desperate for like attention and love as you want to be. I would really say like, I think there are so many times that like I see the world, I think differently than a lot of people see it. And I think like it's because there were so many things that were taught to me at a young age that have stuck with me. My kindergarten teacher taught us the word initiative. And first, like I want a tattoo of it because I use it like almost every day of my life.
Yeah.
And it means so much to me to say like, I look around at people and I'm like, here's this giant problem, or here's this thing that needs to be fixed, or something needs to be moved, or someone needs to do this. And I look around, I'm like, no one's doing it. Oh, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And I've always just kind of lived my life that way. And this, some drug talk. I did acid once. The only time I've ever done it. We did 3.5 tabs the very first time I ever did it. You're supposed to do one. I did 3.5.
Okay, I was like, I have never really done it.
No, I did 3.5. So. And I had this giant like epiphany. We were like at this lake house in like September, upstate New York. Picture it. And I walked out to the pier and I was tripping balls and I looked out and like everything was moving and all the houses had eyes and the mountains were like the mountain in Moana that like is sleeping and looking at me and everything. Like it felt like the entire world was like staring at me. Not in like a creepy way, but just like a confusing way. And so I asked like out loud, tripping balls, I was like, what is everyone looking at? And the world responded, you. And for some reason, it really made sense to me in that moment that I was like, oh, people look to me. I'm a leader. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to lead others, and I'm here to be an example, and I'm here to do the things that no one else does because I have the initiative to do it. And that's so important to me. And so it really like changed my whole, I mean, hey, acid is crazy, but like it changed my worldview in like an instant where it like gave me a new purpose of like, this is what I'm here to do because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
That's for me. This is my path. And so I feel like I just keep doing monologues for every question.
No, I love this. I'm like inspired.
Yeah, but it's
exclusively communicated monologues.
But, I would just say to anyone that's like moving here or starting a new journey or unsure what they're doing with their life, like maybe do some drugs, but also, also just know like every person on this planet has I don't even believe in God, but a divine purpose.
Mm.
We all have skills that no one else has, or even if it's not no one else, it's like few people in our group.
Yeah.
We are like the person in the group that does the thing, you know, for lack of better words. It's just like you're the leader, or you're the person that is like the mom of the group, or you're the person that, you know, is the smart, like practical one. Like everyone has skills that they have developed throughout their life that have led them to where they are now. And it's important, I think, where people get lost and people get unsure of themselves is when they try to fight against who they are. And I think also being queer, it's such an integral lesson of being queer is be who you are.
Yeah.
You're only going to be unhappy if you're not.
Yeah.
And so it's the same way with any part of ourselves, you know? And so I would say listen to yourself, you know?
I love it. I feel like today's the day of like listening to yourself and trusting the world, because we were recording earlier with somebody else and she was talking about how like she was, you know, she likes to put a lot of trust in like the world and that like it has a plan for you and all these things. So I'm feeling inspired to just trust it and let things happen.
I think it does, you know, and not to be too like Marianne Williamson, crystal astrological, but you know, I believe in the Big Bang.
Yes.
So by that logic, like we all came from the same thing. Everything is connected. Every path is connected. Even if it's like, you know, there are different paths you can take.
Yeah.
But it's all connected to the same thing, which is like we are here to live our life and be ourselves. And like we live in this structure of society where we're supposed to make money and work and blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, like we only have the one life to like do with it as we want. And there are so many ways we can connect to others, connect to each other, connect to ourselves, connect to the things around us that lead us to where we're supposed to be.
Mic drop. I love it. I love
acid drop.
All comes back to the acid.
There's gonna be some mom who listens to this and is gonna be like, so my takeaway was do drugs.
I mean, listen, I will say drugs have really helped me with a lot of things.
There you go.
So
there you go.
I will condone it.
There
I
you
will
go.
condone it.
You know, maybe I need to like try a little acid. No, I'm just kidding.
My sister and I one time.
I'm not.
I know. I've never been a big drug person.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
My sister and I one time joked to our mom of like, we always joke like, we could be doing worse. We could be on drugs. And she was like, actually, you two are both on drugs. And we were like, what? And like, we both do various weed and some mushrooms.
Weed.
Well, some edibles, smoking, regardless. And she didn't come for that. She was like, well, you're both on antidepressants. And I was like, you don't get to call us out for being on drugs.
Shout out to Lexapro.
Yeah, like, that doesn't fucking, you can call us out for the actual drugs we do. One of my siblings does a bunch of mushrooms, but you can't call us out for antidepressants. That doesn't count.
I know.
Well, hey, I mean, mushrooms there are very promising studies that they technically are
Don't
antidepressants.
Show up in your bloodstream for a long
for
time.
a drug
so
test?
If you get tested.
Well, as a drag queen, I don't think I ever have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But
That's nice.
you know,
That's nice.
maybe someday I'll have a corporate job I need to worry about.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Trust
I hope I never do.
And what do you feel are like the most challenging and best parts of drag?
I would say it is, you are like, I keep saying you're your own business, and it's true. And that is like the pro and the con.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be on top of everything.
I feel that.
If you want a successful career. Some people are lucky and they don't have to work as hard, and that's fine for them, good for them. In my experience, like you have to like always be pushing yourself, always be improving, always be leveling up, while also being on top of your taxes, being on top of your expenses, being able to pay rent, being able to buy food, while also, you know, worrying about your social media and worrying about your gigs and emailing people. It's like you are your own publicist, you're your own designer, you're your own, you know, I don't make my own outfits, but you can be your own seamstress, you can be your own wig stylist, you're your own makeup artist, you're your own performer, you're your own business lady. Like you're doing every part of it. And that is definitely the most challenging, aside from the fact that like my body hates me every day from doing drag. Especially as I'm nearing 30, it's like my body after a show where I'm really feeling myself. I'll wake up the next day and really feel myself in other ways.
I've already accepted. I'm like, I'm someday going to get a double knee replacement. And that's just part of my future.
Double knee.
I hit 27 and like the next day I was like, ooh, a crack in here where I'd never cracked before. And my back is hurting over here where it's never hurt before. And so, but the goal is get to a place where I don't have to kill my body for money and tips and all of that.
Yeah.
Still do drag.
Yeah. And what was the inspiration behind your name? We're so curious.
Theater. I mean,
yeah. But how did you come up with it?
I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was definitely years before I started drag.
Okay.
Love that.
It was like around the time I think I first found out that like drag names can be puns. And so I think I was talking to my siblings about it. I was with a group of people and I was just like, what, if I was ever a drag queen, what would my name be? So we're throwing out different names and, I'm Jewish. So we're throwing out like Hannah Kia and like, Shabbat Shalom, stuff like that. And I don't know how, but somehow it landed on Kiki Ball-Change. And I said, it's
so good.
Yes.
If I ever do drag, that's going to be my name.
Yeah.
And so when I first started in my parents' house, one of the first things I did was like check Instagram to see if there were any other Kiki Ball-Changes out there because I didn't want to have the same name as someone. And it was not available, or it was available. So I like made an Instagram and that was
That's what Audrey did when we first figured out our name. She was making every Instagram account.
12 different domains. We've got a bunch of Instagrams. I'm like, y'all ain't taking this shit. It's ours.
Yeah, like .net, .gov.
Yeah.
Literally. The other week we got like a domain like refresher thing.
Yeah.
And there's like 10 emails about domains. I was like, Audrey, what are all
We own all the iterations. It's because my parents do startups, and what would happen sometimes is someone would buy the name before you could, and then you have to pay way more fucking money for it.
I love the times where it's like a politician's like campaign website is like misses the payment deadline and someone buys it and then makes it into like hentai porn or something, and they're like
sometimes buy really crazy names so that other people can't buy them. And it was the last week tonight that did it of like it went and showed like all of these crazy domain names that politicians have bought so that no one can buy it. And it was literally like crazy things of like, what's the name of any politician besides Ron DeSantis? He's the only person I can think of. Like, Ron DeSantis sucks a dick, and he like bought it so no one else can.
I mean, hey, sometimes you got to do that to protect your brand.
Yeah. The brand.
Yeah.
The brand.
I don't think I answered the part. Did I answer? You said what was good about doing drag too?
Yeah. Like,
I never answered
the best
that.
part.
Sorry. I just complained a lot about it.
No, it's okay.
I love being able to feel. It sounds so dumb and cliche, but to feel beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like growing up as like an unconventionally attractive like person, because I think I am attractive. I know I'm attractive, and but I'm not conventionally attractive. I can realize that about myself. So growing up gay in the South, I didn't date anyone until college, and not because I didn't want to, but because there was no one around, and the people that were didn't want to date me. And ever since then, like I've had very few relationships. I've only had 3 like real relationships since college. And I struggled a lot before I started drag with like my self-image and my confidence and all of that. But it was really like, even when I looked the most busted in drag, I felt more beautiful than I ever had out of drag. And that has since translated into out of drag, where like I can look at myself now and say, like my therapist, love him, said, you can tap into, and RuPaul says it too, but you can tap into the energy you have when you're in drag any time in your life, in any situation. And so it's really incredible how drag has transformed Gabe, and Kiki has transformed how I feel about myself all the time. Because I feel so powerful when I'm in drag that it's hard not to feel the same way when it's off. And it's still hard. Like I still definitely feel like, this is a new human hair unit. So I was like definitely feeling my oats in the car.
Yes.
I was staring at it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money, so please stare at it as much as you want.
Love.
That is really the most beautiful thing I think about drag.
Mm.
And I've seen it not just with me, I've seen it with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
That you just feel power, especially as a queer person, that you don't feel, I think, up until that moment.
Mm.
And even people that don't do drag regularly, if they just do drag for Halloween or they, someone paints their face for an event or a party or whatever, everyone has the same reaction when they first see themselves in drag. It's a completely different person, but it's still you.
Yeah.
But you feel, you're like, I didn't know I could look like this. And yeah, you can.
Mm.
Everyone, you have the potential to tap into it whenever you want. And so that has really been the most rewarding part about doing it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And kind of shifting gears, you mentioned just now, growing up in the South and your
Mhm.
sexuality. When did you start having thoughts of questioning your sexuality, and how did you navigate that?
Everyone knew I was gay before I did,
Mm-hmm.
is the best way I know how to say it. It was very apparent to everyone but me. And I was very convinced until I was like 14 that I liked women. And in many ways, I still do. I think they're very beautiful. But it just kind of hit me one day. Like I was with one of my friends in middle school. And I was like, wait a second. Like in my head, I was like, hold on. Am I his friend because I want to be his friend or because I want to be his friend?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like start fantasizing or start like, whatever. Meanwhile, like still playing Princess Peach and being a Jedi princess, being like, I love women. I love women.
Yeah.
My mom asked me 5 million times growing up if I was gay. And I told her
Really?
no every single time.
Mm.
Partially because I didn't know how she would react once I did know I was gay.
Mm.
And partially because I was like, no, I'm not. I just like doing single ladies at cast parties. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
And, but it was hard growing up in the South.
Mm.
And I grew up in Pensacola, which is Florida, first of all. And second of all, currently represented by Matt Gaetz, who I don't know if you've heard of
Yep.
him. Yeah. So it is a very conservative area.
Yeah.
Luckily, when I grew up, nothing about Florida is the same as it was when I was growing up. It's changed a lot. But, still the South, still very conservative part of the country. And so I didn't know how anyone would react. I thought my parents were going to disown me, which is absolutely insane to think about now because they absolutely never would have. But I didn't know. And there was
Right.
no like media out there. Like Glee had just started airing. Kurt Hummel was like, with his dad, that storyline was literally me. I was watching it and being like, oh. And I hadn't seen any of that before.
Yeah.
I was too young to see, what's the...
Will and Grace.
Will and Grace, yes. But also there was, they just made a remake of it on Peacock, I think.
L Word?
No, it was gay. It was like Canada. And then anyway... Someone will like comment on it. And be
Yeah.
like, you dumb idiot. This show.
Queer Eye?
No.
Oh.
John Sibili, I think, was in it. Anyway, all right. Queer as Folk.
Okay.
So there was stuff out there, but I was too young to really see it.
Yeah.
And so like all the media I had before Glee was like Prayers for Bobby, where he commits suicide. And I just had another one. I forgot it. Another one where someone commits suicide and
Yeah.
everyone's unhappy and their parents disown them. And that was like, and people have HIV and die. And my parents grew up in the 80s and like were young, like in their 20s throughout the 80s. And so they saw what AIDS did to gay men. And so that was their influence on me was, well, if you're gay, you're going to probably get AIDS and die. Not in like a hateful way, but just like, this is our experience knowing gay people.
Right.
And then on the media, all I saw was people committing suicide or dying of AIDS. And so it was like, that's what I thought my life was going to be.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified for years, even though like I knew I was gay from like 13 until I started coming out at like 15, 16. That was like 3 years where I knew I liked boys. but I was too terrified to tell anyone.
Yeah.
And I forgot where the question was going, but it started slowly. I started with my friends, telling my friends, and then eventually my family started finding out. And everyone was pretty accepting overall. My mom was pretty upset because I told my friends before I told her, even though she had been asking and asking and asking. And we've come around since then. Like, it took a few years for us to really talk about it and like unpack it. But she told me at the time, she was like, you have lost my trust because you told everyone else before you told your own mom. Since then, I've talked to her and been like, you need to understand, as like a 14-year-old child,
it's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And so she understands now, and we've moved past it. But it was a really tough, like, I had a really bad relationship with my mom for like a year or two because I felt like I didn't have her trust because I had like lied to her.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's hard.
It is. It is. My parents also sort of knew as well. And I started experimenting at like 12 years old, and then I didn't come out until I was 22. Similarly, I was kind of like, had this moment where I was like gay when I was younger, and then I was like, that's over with now. But it was interesting when I came out to my parents. They were like, yeah, we kind of knew, like, from things that I thought I was so slick at hiding. But yeah, it's such a difficult experience, and however you choose to, navigate it and come out of it, I think is like the way that you have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have like, both my parents are so, like, my dad is such a classic, like, coming out, like, stupid, cheesy. Like, when it was like 2 years after I had told my mom, and I'm sure she talked to him about it, but in my head, he had heard nothing and knew nothing.
I never know what my dad knows. I have no sense of what my mom has told him.
My dad is an enigma. Like, I truly don't know what goes on in his brain half the time, but I love him. He gives me such crazy genetics that I'm obsessed with. I went up into his room. He was like watching TV, and I sat on the bed and I said, Dad, I have something really important I need to tell you. He paused the TV and I said, I'm still your son, but I'm gay. And he was like, I know. And I was so shocked that he knew. I was like, you know? You know me, the boy that's been trampling around high school, sucking off every boy he can get his hands on, is gay? And he said, yes. And then, like, we talked a little bit, and then I was leaving the room. He said, I thought you had something important to talk to me about. That's my dad.
So savage.
I know. I love him.
That's honestly hysterical. Great story.
And then, like, literally, like, I thought it was going to be a whole another deal when I started drag, with, like, having to come out again and be like, I'm a drag queen, and I want to dress like a woman and whatever. And I did my makeup, like, in my room at my parents' house, and came downstairs to, like, show my parents and be like, look, I did my makeup. And the first thing my mom said was, do you need a bra? And then went to her closet, got me a bra, got me a dress. And that was like the first bra and dress I had in drag was from my mom.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so incredible.
I've been very lucky with them.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's such a touching story. Part of me wants to cry a little.
My mom always buys us like all the rainbow shit. Like I currently have rainbow soap in my shower because every Christmas she just gives us a lot of rainbow shit. And every time I unwrap a new one, I just shout gay and it confuses all my family members. They're like, why are you shouting it with no context?
My mom bought me weed socks recently.
Oh.
So, you know.
I made my parents get stoned with me and play mini golf for
not
my last birthday or maybe my last birthday, the birthday before.
I've been begging my parents to get stoned with me, but they both have jobs that have drug tests. So
yes,
and they live in Alabama, so you know
the whole thing.
I don't want them to get in trouble.
Kind of wrapping up, we've seen that you're going to be on a Hulu show.
Yes,
I'm very excited. I watched the trailer the other day. I know you probably can't say much, but is there anything you can like talk about with the experience? Like, how was it for you? How did it happen?
So fun.
So fun.
It was like the first experience like that I'd ever had. Like I've done like TV things before and commercials, and like I did a commercial. I mean, when I was like a child, I did like a commercial. I've been around a camera before, it was not new to me to be around a camera, but this was like the first time I was like the main subject of the camera. And they were literally, I mean, you'll see it when the show comes out, but it's unlike a lot of competition series in that like it's the first season, so they were like kind of open to whatever you wanted to bring to the table that would help set up what the show was. Like you are part of the creator of what this show is and will be. And so that was really fun and cool to like just be stupid and like make choices that were just extra, the biggest choice I could make on camera. And I was paired with Thor, who is a friend of mine, and we just had the stupidest best time making this dinner party happen. It was great. And it was, it was the first time I'd ever been around Neil Patrick Harris and David Burtka. And I'd met Bianca before, but she was a judge for this show. And so getting to like spend time with her was really cool. Benda LaCreme was one of the producers. So she was like hands-on the entire day. One of the makeup and hair like assistants was Keisha Carr, who I talked about earlier. And it was just like so unexpectedly like a wonderful experience for my first time doing something like that.
Right.
I really went into it being very scared of, you've seen the cast, it's like 38 drag race girls and like 2 or 3 like local girls. And so going into it knowing that I was 1, paired with a drag race girl, and 2, we didn't know who we were paired up against, and I can't say who it was until the episode comes out. But knowing it was going to be like most likely drag race girls was terrifying because, here I am in like my little orange and white dress, like with my little 60s hair, walking into it being like, oh, these are like celebrities that I have to like impress and like make a good impression on. So that was nerve-wracking, but I am very proud of everything that I did. Yay. And I'm very excited for the episode to come out. I think it'll be out by the time this episode
Amazing.
This comes out, but because it comes out May 31st.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
At midnight.
Fierce. Yes, I'm so excited to watch it. I can't wait.
When I first saw the trailer, I thought it was already out, and then I did that thing where I got really mad that it was just a trailer and I couldn't actually watch it. I was like,
and I'm bummed. I'm only, you can see the back of my head in the trailer for like 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, I was watching the trailer and I was like looking for you.
There's like one shot of Thorgy crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like running behind her for like 1 second. You'll miss it if you like aren't looking, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
I'll have a whole episode to look at myself for, so it's fine.
For
I'm not that mad.
And so our last question for you, we asked this to all of our guests.
Okay.
When is a recent moment where you felt clueless?
Be big, small. Might have been as small as like, hey, are you supposed to clean your dishwasher? Or as big as like, how do I get healthcare?
Where I felt completely clueless. I'm trying to think. I know I was in LA recently. I'm trying to think if there was. Yes, LA. Okay. I went to WeHo. I've been to LA before. I've been out in LA before. I had a good time. Wasn't the best time of my life, but I've had a good time in LA. I went to LA recently for DragCon. And we went out one night. It was me and a few of my friends, and we went to WeHo, which is like Hell's Kitchen of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Very gay. Very like, there's like gay nightclub scene and like queer nightclub scene. This was very gay nightclub scene traditionally, very much Hell's Kitchen. And we went to like 3 different clubs, and for some reason, the only music they were playing was like 2007 straight bar mitzvah music. Is the best way I know how to describe it. It was like what the apple bottom jeans. It was like Soulja Boy.
Oh
it was like Tootsie Roll. They played like one Ice Spice song. There was no Beyonce. There was no Dua Lipa. There was no Lady Gaga. I was like, we are in the gayest district in LA. We have been to 3 different bars, and the clientele and the music is all straight. What is going on here? LA is like, this trip to LA, I was very clueless of like, why do I ever want to be here again? I was just like, what is going on? What is the vibe with LA? Why is it so rotted? Why? I mean, the girls are going to come for me, but I did not enjoy it this time around. It was bad vibes.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why.
LA's never really been an interest place for me. I don't know why.
I sweat too much.
You smoke too much?
Sweat.
Oh. The weather was cold. It was colder than New York when I was there. It was warmer in New York than it was in LA. We went to the beach. It was beautiful for like an hour and a half and then was freezing.
Oh.
Couldn't get in the water, of course. It was too cold. We went to Universal. That was kind of nice.
Oh, okay, that's fun.
Saw Mario World. It was very cool.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that's very fun.
But there was no, first of all, they have no like investment in their transit, in their public, in their pedestrians. It's a car city, which I am hateful against. I'm like, where are your trees? Where are your benches? Where are your bike lanes?
Nothing.
And we stayed downtown, which was even worse.
Oh.
Because there's nothing remotely justifying or pretty about living downtown compared to like Malibu or even like West Hollywood or like Burbank. There's nothing to look at besides dirty old broken down buildings. I hated it.
Oh my God, that doesn't sound very fun. Yeah, I know. I feel like LA has never been an interest place for me either because like I've heard the traffic. Like and New York traffic already gets me, so I'm like.
The traffic wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
When I was there and what I did, like when I was in a car, it wasn't a huge deal. Like it took, I think 40 minutes to get from downtown to the beach. And it took like 45 minutes to get from Harlem to here today.
Okay. So
you know, it depends.
Depends.
I'm an East Coast baby. I know I'm biased, but
I love the nature of California. I love being outside.
The outdoors part.
Especially when the weather is nice. I love the sun. I love trees. I love water. I love to be outside, which is part of why New York sometimes isn't my favorite.
Yeah.
But I just...
It was not it.
It
wasn't the vibe.
It was not the redwood forest, honey. It was the gutter. The gutter.
I'm dead.
Oh, no. I hated it.
That's awful. That does not
sound fun. You order Uber Eats and you have to... You pay their tip. They're like fees, you know, when you order Uber Eats like now in New York, there's like fees and then you tip and there's a food price and tax. In LA, there's a law that the tip is part of like they get guaranteed pay as like in their tip that comes from your fees. And I didn't know that. So I paid someone like a $20 tip on some Taco Bell.
Not on Taco Bell.
Look,
I think it's the Taco Bell that makes it a tragedy.
That was the other thing. There's nowhere to eat past 9 o'clock.
Oh my God.
In downtown LA. That isn't $100.
That's a no.
I'm clueless about why people want to live in LA.
There you go, people. You've heard it here first. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was incredible, and it was so great to get to know you.
You too.
And where should the people follow you?
You can follow me on all social media because I am #branded at Kiki Ball-Change everywhere. It's KIKI, ball like the sphere, and change like what we need in this world. Amen.
Period.
Also, we didn't talk about I will be in Death Drop off Broadway.
Oh, yes.
So you can see me there. You can get tickets at deathdropplay.com.
Amazing.
We start previews June 30th. The show opens July 13th. Okay. It is at least a 20-week run. So I will be out of commission from the clubs. If you want to see me in the club, I'm sorry. I will be out of commission for at least 6 months.
Wow. Amazing.
And yeah, I'm very excited to do that.
Yay!
Which is, sorry, I just want to tie it together.
No,
I am very, the other thing that I love is like, I set out this like mission and this path to like, to change my drag from something I felt like I had to fit the mold of like what everyone else was doing and really gear it toward a path of like theater and what I love to do. And you know, here I am, like I have an award for Best Cabaret from Nightlife. I've solo produced like tons of my own solo cabarets. And now I'm going to be on TV and in an off-Broadway play.
I know.
And,
I mean,
you know,
literally, like I was looking, like just like looking at your career, I'm like, that's like incredible, like to build it up and like now like TV, off-Broadway, like it's incredible.
It's wild. I feel like I'm on the precipice of something new, of a new era.
Yes.
But I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm very scared, but I'm very excited.
And that's it. That's the tea.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on. Bye, guys. Bye.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58 Ember Media on socials.